In this movie we will discuss arrays. What is an array and why should you use an array? An array is simply a list of data that is stored in memory of a computer system. Instead of being in a list box on the form, the list actually exists in the computer's memory. Arrays are very useful for sorting and calculating data that is either has already been processed or is to be processed in the future. Arrays are sometimes called tables. And like variables, an array consists of a specific data type. In fact, an array is a variable. It's referred to as a subscripted variable. When you declare an array, you are declaring a subscripted variable, in that each individual variable within the array is called an element of that array. Subscripted variables can be manipulated just like non-subscripted variables, that is, ordinary variables. You just need to make sure that when you reference subscripted variables, that you include the subscript, which is in parentheses, as you reference the data. Arrays can be declared using the dim statement, the public or private statements. The location of the declaration determines the scope of the array variables. In this case, this is exactly the same as non-subscripted variables. You declare the data type for the array, which means all elements must be consistent with this data type. For example, if you create an array of integers, then all the data within that array must be integers. The general form of the array declaration statement is dim, followed by the name of the array, followed by, in parentheses, an upper subscript, and then as data type. Of course, the data type specifying the type of data of the contents of the array. The upper subscript is the highest subscript, which is not the size of the array. And we'll talk more about subscripts in a separate movie. The upper subscript will always be one less than the total number of elements in the array. So specific examples of array declaration statements. In the first example, we have an array called last name string. This declares an array that will be used to store string data and can hold up to 21 names. Now note that 20 is the highest subscript, and it can hold 21 names because the first subscript, the first location, is actually numbered 0. Visual Basic begins counting at 0 as opposed to 1. So each location, each array, starts at the 0 location up to the highest subscript. So in this case, last name string would have 21 elements with subscripts from 0 to 20. And again, the as string would indicate the type of data that's being stored in this array. In the second example, we have an array that will be capable of storing up to 11 whole numbers, that is, integers, since we're specifying the data type to be as integer. The name of the array is age integer. Again, the highest subscript is 10. Again, 0 to 10 is where the 11 elements are stored. And the third and final example is an array called amount decimal, 200 being the highest subscript with a data type of decimal, which will declare an array named amount decimal, which is capable of storing up to 201 values of data which could indeed contain decimal. Now, once you declare these data statements, nothing is stored in these array statements. They're simply set aside in memory so that you can then load the array with data at a later time. The dim statement simply sets aside a chunk of memory which can then be accessed and referenced as needed.